Hi, I'm Cameron, and I don't just read comics, I love them. Welcome back to another episode of Cameron Reads Comics. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the first 3 episodes of Peacemaker on HBO Max. So, let's check it out. Before I got into Peacemaker, I wanted to rewatch The Suicide Squad because I thought he was the character that caught me so off guard most in that film. And that being the case, I think you see a moment kind of click with a director like that, and especially with these characters, is I think James Gunn had like a kindredness to that character. It's almost like he was making Suicide Squad, he used that character, and then something about his process with him just really like drew him in. And I feel like he wanted to spend a lot more time with that character in that film, more than he could have. I will tell you, I think the climax with Peacemaker and Ratcatcher and Rick Flag, I won't spoil it, but that whole sequence was my favorite of that home. That caught me off guard. I was like, oh, I never knew someone that silly I could take that seriously. And so I'm glad we have this series to be able to get a chance to explore those scenes. Before we get to the episodes, I want to give you a little fun fact about the Peacemaker is that he's a Charlton comic character, and I didn't realize. I think he had some golden age appearances. The first issue of Peacemaker #1 from the Charlton comics, makes him look he looks a lot different than he does now, and I don't know how the creators would feel if they saw him portrayed this way now. I don't know if that was ever their intent, but that being the case, it's neither here nor there. Fun fact, with him being a Charlton Comics character, some of you could know that those were the inspiration for the Watchmen characters. It was all the Charlton Comics characters. So when they were acquired by DC, Alan Moore wanted to use them, but DC said, no, we don't want to, we want Watchmen to be outside of continuity. It's kind of like an Elseworlds tale. And so if you want to see a polar opposite take on this character, go look at the comedian from Watchmen. If you know, you know. That's all I have to say. I think some of the tones also from this show were heavily inspired by the John Ostrander Suicide Squad run, which I actually have yet to read. I've read the first issue of the series. That's a CGC issue that I think in the future I want. Which I think really is where Peacemaker makes his big debut. We see a lot of those scenes replicated in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. I told you, I like Peacemaker in The Suicide Squad. He caught me off guard. But yeah, let's get into the series. Obviously, it picks up after the post-credit scene of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Everyone knows as it has blown up the internet. I even posted a story on the Cam Reads Comics feed about it, but the intro sequence is literally the greatest intro sequence I've ever seen. I didn't know I could love anything that much. It's just so freaking good. There's an exploration of him coming out of jail to do some contract work for hire. I also thought the Peacemaker's relationship with his dad, I didn't realize, that had been in the trailers. Peacemaker's relationship with his dad I thought was so interesting, and to explore that, I'm starting to see some themes pop up in James Gunn's work, and that is definitely a father and son kind of thing, We see this very, very reminiscent of Peter Quill and Ego, the Living Planet, their relationship in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I'm seeing some themes about that. In the exploration of those father and son themes, I really am glad we're getting a chance to explore. I guess I just didn't realize we'd hop right into that. But from a narrative perspective of him kind of getting out and needing a place to stay, it makes sense that he'd go to his parents, And so you also see the great scenes where you see how he ended up the way he did, based on his father and their relationship and the almost like, I'm not good enough, I'll never be good enough for you, Dad, kind of thing. So I really liked that. I also, one thing about that too that I just adored was his father being his supplier, the guy who creates all of his uniforms. And I just thought that was so interesting. I thought it adds this level to it, but then there's the shame because his son got caught and he was in prison. The fact that Peacemaker won't bring up to his father the what happened with Flag or what happened with Bloodsport and there's so much shame attached to who he is. But I gotta say, I love the tone of this show because James Gunn, he has this capability to give us characters that are completely unlikable, but makes something about them so charming. Like, Peacemaker is such a terrible person. Like, he is so dislikable and just so... Like, if I ran into that dude at a bar, I'm like, you are a trash dude. Like, I do not want to talk to you at all. But he makes this narrative and his perspective so compelling. And we see a little bit of that mirrored through Amanda Waller's daughter. Also, big shout out to John Cena for the same thing I was saying about James Gunn's capability to make those characters interesting. John Cena is able to navigate the tone and the mood of Peacemaker so much better than, like, mad props to him. It shows what a talent he is. His relationship also, okay, there's two major awesome females in this. I'm so glad we saw the return of Viola Davis's Amanda Waller, who has sent her daughter on this mission with him, and it's not as glamorous as it's not 007. It is like they're staying at a Motel 6. It's not cool, it's not glam like they thought it'd be. And also Harcourt, Special Agent Harcourt. I adore her. She is like this cool, like, badass woman, and I'm just so down with this. I'm so down for her to be such a cool character. I adore it. At the end of episode 1, we kind of get the hints of Project Butterfly, which are super cool. We don't know what it is, though. I still don't know. Nobody's going to tell us. Project Star or whatever was a big giant star with the Conqueror, and now he's like, are these going to be butterflies? Good question. All right. I don't know, and I wish they would tell me, but I think that's kind of necessary in a Suicide Squad story. Suicide Squad, ish. This is a cousin of that. We're not supposed to know until the climax, or, whoa, that's actually what it was the whole time. Now, episode 2, Best Friends for Never. So Peacemaker is oddly hitting it off with the people he's about to kidnap. I thought that whole scene was so freaking funny. Okay, so it picks up after episode 1 where it ends, and the chick that he took home becomes a big monster lady, and then he comes, there's a whole fight. It was a great fight sequence. Loved it. He was in his tidy whities as per usual. Are we ever going to not see him in tidy whities? Oh my gosh. So he's running through the building. The cops have been called on him. He gets his new costume also in episode 1. Then he hits it off with the people he's about to kidnap to the point where, I don't know what it is about his love of hair metal, but I just love that that is a central theme in the show. It's just like a character point. Yes, James Gunn has an eccentric music taste, and I just love that we're seeing those flavors in that. And I love that those are being translated so well. And to the point where, he hits it off with this girl and her boyfriend is watching them flirt. It was the best. Huge one. Batmite is canon now. That is huge because this is... Okay, so Suicide Squad exists in the Ben Affleck Batman, Henry Cavill Superman universe, So now they're saying in one of the darkest universes in all of any franchise history ever, Batmite exists. The interdimensional imp that is Batmite. I'm just like, what? How could that happen? I love that. This is the deep DC cuts that I need. That kind of could technically mean that Mr. Mxyzptlk is, because I'm pretty sure they're from the same dimension. I don't know. I don't know. We also get the first appearance of Vigilante. Before we get to Vigilante, there's that scene right before he makes his appearance where there's some deep, like, self-loathing that Peacemaker goes through, and that we're able to talk about Batmite, and then we're able to, like, watch this man, like, kind of, like, hate himself so much and, like, sob to himself because he's having, like, an identity crisis, and I just, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that story could be told this way. And props where props are due. That was awesome. And then we get the appearance of Vigilante, which is so interesting too. Like for the fans that knew, like when I was super deep in the Arrowverse, we had that version of Vigilante, and then we have this version. Again, so polar opposite. I did not think his costume could ever be translated as well as it was. That's a classic George Perez, Marv Wolfman costume. I think his first appearance is in a Tales of the Teen Titans annual. Never thought that, think about it like this. We got Vigilante before we got Robin. An actor cast as Vigilante before they got cast as Robin. Wild. And then we get a look at Peacemaker's father, who is now, we come to find out, a DC character known as the White Dragon. And I looked at that White Dragon. I'll probably put it right there, the costume. It was so interesting. But you can kind of see how they're related. I don't know anything about the White Dragon. There is a Peacemaker limited series. It's like 4 issues long. I think I might read it because I assume that's where some of this stuff is coming from. If the Suicide Squad run by John Ostrander was such a direct, influence, I think I can read 4 issues of an 80s comic and figure out if those are the influence of this one. I'm going to try and drop that rating and review within the span of this TV series happening. So I guess in the next month. Now for episode 3, I got to give you guys a fair warning. I was half paying attention for episode 3, so I might rewatch it. Better Goff Dead, where we find out these people have been infected with Project Butterfly. We originally thought that it was going to be just this father, the Senator Goff of this family. But then when you kind of realize that the entire family is infected with it, so the hit of one man now becomes the hit of this whole family. Very Punisher style, very reminiscent. Anyways, I was like, wow, this is how literally Punisher happens. Anyways, but pretty much the whole family gets sniped. And Peacemaker has a hard time following through. And so Vigilante is the one that kills these people for contract, which I thought was so interesting. I was like, wow, this person that has literally just become Peacemaker is kind of a joke. Vigilante is an actual joke in this show. And that's not a bad thing, because I just think that it's okay when characters are treated as jokes, because I'm sure there's going to be potential for him to be taken so seriously. Vigilante steps in. We also get a new character, Judo Master, whose costume in the show does not look anything like his comic book costume, but frankly, I'm okay with it. They also chose an Asian actor as opposed to a blonde, which I'm also super okay with, because representation is so important. And like for a character that really I think it'll be hard sent before this year to have met anyone whose favorite character is Judo Master. So to bend that and make it fit with this narrative is just fine. We have an interrogation scene in that scene where, they get busted. Amanda Waller's daughter does not have the guts to pull the trigger and kill one of the security guards that catches them. So Harcourt does that. You just see so many, in the same way that Peacemaker is having a hard time, with his father and his father's legacy, you see that with Waller's daughter having a hard time with her mother's legacy. Her mother's so willing to kill, and Waller's daughter doesn't know if she has the courage to pull the trigger. Love that. Those narratives and stories happening simultaneously. I think they're really smart. I think they're really interesting. And then the silliness of the interrogation scene with Peacemaker, I thought was so interesting. And Vigilante, and cutting off his toes and knowing he's like, I'm not going to say anything, but at the expense of your body, it's like it's not that he doesn't have empathy, it's that he doesn't have any awareness of actually the intensity of the situation, which I thought was so fun. And then the Judo Master, I thought that was that fight scene with him was so interesting, and we're not done seeing him. I would love to know a little bit more about that character though. I want to spend more time just in dialogue and not just in action with that character. So awesome. So I guess my rating for these 3 episodes, we have 4 through 8. So I guess that's 5 more episodes on a weekly basis, I think. I don't know when the full series is going to be released, but we got more time to spend with those characters. I think that I'd give, so far the series, 7.5 out of 10. It's really good. I wish they kind of only gave us 2 episodes of 8 out of the gates, but it's okay. I like that we have the Disney Plus series, and I really like that we have a HBO Max response. I'm excited for the potential of the platform that is HBO Max, that I think is being proven to be my favorite platform for all of this stuff. So I only have things that I'm looking forward to from this series. And again, I'm just glad we're getting so much more regular DC content. I'm glad we have a slate. I'm glad we have, this is only the beginning of the HBO Max exclusive releases for DC, for the DC Entertainment Universe, which is so important. So awesome. Remember, I'm Cameron. I don't just read comics. I love them. Make sure to clobber those like and subscribe buttons, as well as leave me a 5-star rating review on iTunes when you go check out my podcast, Cameron Reads Comics. See you next time.